So, hello everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar. And during this webinar, I will talk about the China laws regulatory updates in the past 2 years and the compliance issues in 2025 to 2026. My name is Liu Yake, and I'm a researcher from NVIX. I'm mainly in charge of China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and before starting the webinar, please allow me to give a brief introduction to our company. Our company was established in 1994 and has about 13 years experience in investment, occupational safety and health and energy regulation compliant consulting. And here shows the main countries and the regulatory topics we cover. Currently, we covered about 50 countries and more than 20 topics. And for these countries, regions, and topics, we can provide policy and regulation consulting service. And these are some examples of our clients. Currently, we have more than 150 clients. That's the brief introduction of our company. So now let's start the webinar. These are the contents that I want to share with you today. First, I will give an overview of China laws framework, and then I will go to the details of the key regulatory updates in these 2 years. And after that, I will give a summary of the key takeaways. And finally, please allow me to give a brief introduction of our service, Ambulance Asia. First, let's look at overview of China laws framework. I think most of you are very familiar with these contents, but just as a review, let's have a quick look. And first, let's look at the China laws regulatory framework. The management method for the restriction of the use of hazardous substances in electrical and electronic products is the core regulation in China laws regulations. And based on it, compliance management catalog, exceptions catalog, and related standards are stipulated. And one thing you should know is that there is a conformity assessment system, which is a special management rules for China laws. And these are the important standards for China laws. The first one, which specifies the restricted hazardous substances and contents limits for them, which is called GBT 26572 of 2011 version. And the second one, which specifies the marking requirements, and is called SJT 11364 of 2014 version. And the last one, which specifies the testing of the content of hazardous substances, which is called GBT 26125 of 2011 version. And this slide shows the development process of China laws regulations. In 2016, the China laws 2.10 version was implemented. The regulated electrical and electronic products are required to comply with the marking requirements. And 3 years later, in 2019, the first round compliance management catalog was implemented. The products listed in this catalog are required to comply with the marking requirements and also the content restriction requirements. Then let's take a look at what kind of products are regulated by China laws. This 10 products, 10 kinds of EEE products are regulated by China laws, and they need to comply with the marking requirements. And among them, these 12 products which are listed in the compliance management catalog, they need to comply both of the marking requirements and content restriction requirements, but also they also need to conduct a conformity assessment. And regarding the marking requirements, which were stipulated by the SJT 11364 of 2014 version, although it's a voluntary industry standard, but compliance with it is mandatory because it is referenced in the management method. And there are two things you need to be marked. One is the e-mark or the origin mark. They usually need to be marked on the body of the product. And the other one is the hazardous substances information table, which usually need to be marked on the packaging of the products or the product introduction manuals. And regarding the content limits for the restricted substances, they are specified in the GBT 26572 of 2011 version. And the same as the last one, although this standard is a voluntary national standard, but as it's referenced in the management method, so complying with it is also a mandatory. And there are 6 restricted substances and content limits are specified for each of them. Once again, please note that only these 12 products listed in the compliance management catalog are required to meet with the content limits. And then let's move to the key regulatory updates in these 2 years. There are 5 key regulatory updates in these 2 years. First, in March 2024, the testing standard has been updated from GBT 261.125 to the GBT 39506 series standards. And in June 2024, the Amendment No.1 to GBT 26572 was issued. And 5 months later, in November 2024, the draft of the mandatory national standard was released. And so after it, in December 2024, the SGT 11364 2024 version was issued. And recently, in April 2025, the draft of mandatory national standard GB 26572 was released. And so let's move to the details of each updates. So the first update is that on January 22, 2024, the Certification and Accreditation Administration of China announced that the test standard for the China RoHS conformity assessment system will be changed from GBT 26125 to GBT 39560 series standards. So it means that after March 1st, 2024, products listed in the compliance management catalog, that's 12 products, should be assessed according to the GBT 39560 standard series. And here are the list of the GBT 39560 series standards. At that time, there are only 8 standards, and all of them are adopted from IEC standards. And let's move to the second updates. On June 29, 2024, the State Administration of Market Regulation of the People's of China released the Amendment No.1 to the GBT 26572 of 2011 version. And this Amendment No.1 is 4 types of phthalates, and which namely DBP, DIBP, BBP, and DHP to the list of the restricted substances. And this all of the and the content limits for them are all 0.1 weight percent. And this amendment will come into effect on January 1st, 2026. In addition to the substances are expanded to 10 substances, the amendment also announced that the testing standard will be changed to GBT to GBT 39560 series standard. And then let's look at the third updates. On December 10, 2024, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology of China approved and published the SJT 11364, the 2024 version, and which will come into effect on April 1st, 2025. However, on January 14, 2025, the drafting authority of the 2024 version published an explanation on its website. This one about the joint implementation of Amendment No.1 of GBT 26572 and this SJT 11364 2024 version. These two documents will be implemented simultaneously no later than January 1, 2026, and to allow company to make sufficient preparations. And I made a summary of the main amendments. So let's look at them. First, regarding the scope of the application, it was revised as this standard specifies the method and requirements for displaying hazardous substances content information in electrical and electronic products. But this change doesn't bring any practical impact. And second, the laser engraving method was added as a new display method for the hazardous substances restriction mark. Third, the display of hazardous substances information table has also been revised. And there are two key points. First is that for the substances name in the table, it can be chosen from Chinese name and the abbreviation. So it means you can just choose one of them is enough. Where in the current version, both of Chinese name and the abbreviation are needed. And the other important point is that QR code method was display method was added as a new method to display the information table. And fourth, the format of hazardous substances information table has also been revised. There are 3 main revisions. First, the table, the title, table of names and the content information of hazardous substances in products has been added to the first line here. And third, the name and order of substances are now designed in the table as current version. It just cites substance 1, substance 2. And third, the content of the notes has also been revised. Note 2 was added. Say that the content of hazardous substances of unlisted components are within the limits set by national standards for electrical and electronic products. And fifth, the requirements to display the production date has been removed. And sixth, which is also very important, is that the retention of technical documents requirements are added. It says that manufacturers or importers of electrical and electronic products should return technical support documents related to the information table so that they can be provided when necessary. And the last one, the definition of hazardous substances has also been revised as the substances contained in electrical and electronic products that are harmful to humans, animals, plants, and the environment. And according to the Annex A.1, the restricted substance has also been expanded to 10 substances, which are consistent with the restricted substances of Amendment No.1 to GBT 26572 of 2011 version. Then let's move to the last updates. On November 19, 2024, the Ministry of Industry of Information Technology of China published a draft of the Mandatory National Standard GB requirements for restriction of the use of hazardous substances in electrical and electronic products. So after that, on April 14, 2025, the draft of standard numbered by GB 26572 was published waiting for approval. And the following contents are based on the new draft. The mandatory national standard is this standard is expected to replace the current two voluntary standard, which is GBT 26572 and the SJT 11364. And what is the background of upgrading these two voluntary standards to mandatory standard? It says that in reality, many enterprises do not know that these two voluntary standards are mandatory, as they are referenced in the management method, and therefore it brings the difficulties in both complying with the requirements and being corrected on by market supervision departments. Therefore, the government decided to upgrade the standard to mandatory national standard. And let's take a look at the contents of the draft mandatory standard. This mandatory standard applies to all electrical and electronic products produced in, sold in, or imported from China. But for different products, their requirements are different. For products listed in the catalog, in the compliance management catalog, they need to comply with both Chapter 5 requirements on content limits and Chapter 6 marking requirements. Where for other EEE products which are not listed in the compliance management catalog, they only need to comply with Chapter 6 marking requirements. And the restricted substance and their content limits are just the same as the GBT 26572 of 2011 version and the No.1 amendment to it. The content testing should be conducted according to the contents of RGB 39560 series standards, and currently there are 14 standards. And the marking requirements are revised based on the revision of SGT 11364 of 2024 version, as they are just the same with it, so I will skip them. And in this mandatory document, requirements for rotation of documents are also added. The thing which is different with SGT 113 for 2024 version is that the rotation period has been added. The technical supporting documents should be kept at least 3 years. And the other thing that need to be noted is that for products which produced or imported before the standards implementation date, a 30 months grace period are granted. And then let's move to the summary of the key takeaways. First, let's look at the implementation schedule. On January 1st, 2026, the Amendment No.1 of GBT 26572 of 2011 version and the SGT 11364 of 2024 version will be implemented. So by that time, all preparations should be done. And after some time, the mandatory national standard GB 26572 will be released and implemented. But as I just showed in the previous slides, its contents are almost consistent with the SGT 11364 of 2024 version and the GBT 26572, so no need to worry too much. So at current, what kind of manufacturers, what manufacturers and importers need to do most now is completing preparations for the implementation of the Amendment No.1 of the GBT 26572 of 2011 version and SGT 11364 of 2024 version. And for the manufacturers and importers of the general electrical and electronic products, which are not listed in the compliance management catalog, what they need to do is, first, they need to check if the 10 restricted substances are within the permitted limits of GBT 26572 based on the GBT 39560 series standards, and then modify the information on the header substance information table. And after that, they need to modify the display of the header substances mark on the product. And after that, modify the display of header substances information table in the product's introduction menus. And besides them, they also need to collect technical documents, information documents related to the header substances content from suppliers and keep them. And this type also can move to the first step. First, you collect the technical documents from the suppliers and check if all these 10 restricted substances are within the permit limit or not. And for the manufacturers and the importers of EE, electrical and electronic products listed in the compliance management catalog, which is currently 12 products. For these manufacturers and importers, what they need to do is almost the same with the normal or the products, the manufacturer and the importers of electrical and electronic products. But the most important difference is that they need to make sure these 10 restricted substances contained in the products are within the permitted limits of GBT 26572. And the other step are just same with the general EE products. And that's the main contents of today's webinar, and I hope it can provide you with some useful information. And then I will just take a very short time to give a brief introduction to our service NBIX Asia. The NBIX Asia is a web database which providing investment regulation information updates in Asian countries and regions. It covers China, Japan, South Korea, and in India, Bangladesh, and yeah, it covers most of the countries regions in China, in the Asia. And for the topics, it covers topics such as laws, GTRIs, POPs, MAPs, and the ELV topics for the products, as well the pollution control, chemical management, environmental management, such topics for the related to factories. And in each post, we summarize the key points of the regulation updates, just as what I have shown in this webinar. Like this one is the post related to the China published the draft for approval of the mandatory national standard of laws for laws. And we provide three subscription plans. For one user, the annual subscription fee will be $1,800 USD. So you can put an order through the order form on our website. And now we also provide a 2-week free trial. So please feel free to contact us. And thank you so much for your attention. After the webinar wraps up, a short feedback form will pop up. We would really appreciate if you could take a moment to share your how you felt and let us know what topics you'd like to hear about next time. So thank you again for joining us today. Goodbye.